we'll start. As you can see, we are an exclusive circle of people who want to talk about youth and youth participation in the Baltic Sea region. To start with, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Markus Kreitz. I work with the Regional Youth Council of Schleswig-Holstein, and I'm responsible for international youth work there. And I am very happy to welcome our three guests, our three panelists. We've got Rasmus Andresen with us, who can also say a little about himself in just a second. He is member of the Green Party, as you can see from his background, and he is also a member of the European Parliament. We've got Simon Lindkjær Andersen with us, connected from Copenhagen, who is a member of the European Youth Forum, and we've got Carolina Klaus with us, and she is board member of the Regional Youth Council of Schleswig-Holstein. So in a way, she is my boss. For today's session, we have about an hour. We will start with a little poetry slam that you've seen and experienced in the main session by Björn Högstad. After that, I would like to give our three panelists a chance to introduce themselves quickly, and then we are going to do a little speed dating with all of you, giving you the chance to get to know each other a little better, and then I would like to dive into the topic of youth and youth participation. We were actually planning to do that in breakout sessions, but as we are quite a small number of people, I think we can do that here in the main room. And for all of you who are taking part, please feel free to switch off your camera. And if you want to say something, just raise your hand, and then you have the chance to ask your question or give a statement. So before we move on to the poetry slam, Rasmus, would you like to introduce yourself briefly to the people here?
Yes, thanks, Markus, for the invitation and for giving me the opportunity. My name is Rasmus Andresen. I'm member of the European Parliament for the Greens, and coming from Schleswig-Holstein, where I actually also am right now in Flensburg, and I'm from the Danish minority in northern Germany, and lived in Copenhagen for some years, and yeah, since 2019, I'm a member of the European Parliament, basically working on financial budget aspects, but also in the industry committee, for example, on a lot of topics related to the Baltic Sea and also to about human rights.
Okay, and that you've mentioned Copenhagen, I would like to throw the ball over the Fehmarn Belt to Simon.
From Funen, which is right across the Fehmarn Belt. I think if we're lucky, we'll get a bridge, the way I do live in Copenhagen now. As Markus correctly stated, my name is Simon, and I'm a board member at the European Youth Forum. And what we are is an umbrella of youth organizations that works for the rights of young people and for the conditions under which civil society, especially young civil society, can work all over Europe. So we represent everything from national youth councils to Scout, to the Union of European Deaf Youth, to youth political party associations. So it is indeed a very, very broad spectrum of interests you've got to try and look out for. So obviously some of the things we focus on are things like what we're going to be talking about here today. What is good youth participation? What does that look like? And also how can we ensure a vibrant young civil society with plenty of space for young people to self-organize and pursue their interests. But I'm sure I'll get a chance to talk about that more in a little bit.
Most definitely, Simon. Thank you. And throwing the ball back to the other side to Carolina, who is in Flensburg, if I'm correct.
Yes, yeah, I was about to say this. Yeah, my name is Carolina. I am 27 years old. I'm living in Flensburg, also from the region here. And yeah, as Marco said, I'm working with the Regional Youth Council and especially with the sports organization, which is yeah the biggest one here in the region, representing 300,000 young people. And what's for me very important is yeah, campaigning for diverse youth participation, because what I see a lot is like there are certain groups of young people who have access, yeah, also to events like this, for example, and yeah, so for me, it's very important to include as many young people as possible. I also have a problem here with the video, Marcus. I don't know. I try to solve this. I can just see some at the moment, which is not that bad, but yeah, I try to solve this. Yeah.
Okay, right. We can see you and we can hear you. Thank you, Carolina. And welcome again to all three of you. Great to have you here. As promised, I would like to start by showing you the poetry slam by Björn Höxdahl, who is a very yeah, famous, popular poetry slammer here in our region. The video will be 3 minutes, and yeah, after that we will start talking about youth and youth participation.
Europa-Puzzle. Ein Puzzle mit nur 27 Teilen. Das klingt zunächst mal eigentlich ganz leicht. Die Frage ist, wird dieses Bild verweilen? Nichts hat Bestand, nur weil es mal erreicht. Ein Puzzle funktioniert nur, wenn die Teile passen, wenn sie sich ohne Gewalt zusammenfügen lassen. Europa ist mir Heimat, mehr als irgendein Land. Warum wirkt dieses Puzzle jetzt so ausgefranst am Rand? Wir waren doch schon mal weiter. Was ist daraus geworden? Wir kamen aus der Dunkelheit und gingen ins Licht. Wir schufen echte Freundschaft nach Kriegen und Morden. Wir nahmen den Glauben an den Frieden in die Pflicht. Und jetzt stehen wir da, ein Stern weniger am Himmel. Das Blau bleibt uns, doch drumherum strahlt's etwas dunkler. Ich sah Nationen im Werden, dann Nationalismus. Aus der Liebe zu den Seinen wurde Hass auf den Nachbar. Es folgten 2 Kriege, Vernichtung, Faschismus, und doch war Verständigung irgendwann machbar. Ich sah Misstrauen und Feindschaft, gesät und erblüht. Ich sah zu viele Kriege, leicht entbrannt, zäh verglüht. Ich sah geschorene Schädel, dann ein zaghaftes Tasten. Ich sah Küsse, sah Hände, die sich schweigend umfassten. Ich sah Kinder und Enkel, für die Frieden normal ist. Ich sah Jugendgrenzen kreuzen in ICEs und Thales. Ich sah Völker verständigt, mit den Händen im Schritt. Ich sah Celine nackt vor Anne, auch sowas ändert den Blick. Als Zeus seiner Zeit weit und breit kopulierte und er wieder mal eine Maid, er stierte, da weckte Europa in ihm große Lust. Doch heute sehen viele Europa voll Frust. Ich höre sie jammern, meist kommt es von rechts. An diesem Europa ist nichts gut, nur schlecht. Dass sich gerade rechts über Grenzen verbündet, ist komisch für den, der es für komisch befindet. Auch wenn sich Menschen und Grenzen verschieben, wenn auch manche Nation erst entstand, sind wir unter uns doch Europa geblieben und es steht noch, trotz manch schwerem Brand. Europa war früher auch Räuber und Mobber. Wir arbeiten daran, bis heute. Wir machten einst Menschen zu kein Euro-Jobbern und teilten die Welt auf wie Beute. Doch das liegt zurück, Mann, haben wir uns gemacht. Und heute hätte Europa die Chance, mehr zu sein, eine Kraft für das Gute, ein Licht in der Nacht, ein Ort voller Frieden, in Vielfalt geeint. Europa ist Vielfalt und Einheit zugleich, sagt nicht, dass ich übertriebe. Das Wir ist ein Ziel, das man niemals erreicht ohne Mut und ein sattes Maß Liebe. Doch dieser Mut und diese Liebe sind nicht mehr so leicht zu finden. Ich wünschte, im Getriebe wäre der Sand zu überwinden. Wir könnten, wenn wir wollten, doch der Wille scheint zu schwinden. Wir wissen, was wir sollten, dies Europa auch empfinden. Ein Europa, das mehr ist als nur Bürokratie, mehr als Wirtschaft und Verträge, mehr als bloß der Grand Prix. Ein Kanon von Werten, ein Gefühl von Gemeinschaft, ein Bewusstsein der Stärken, kein Raum mehr für Feindschaft. Dass wir manches erreicht und nicht mehr so viel Krieg haben, dass wir miteinander reden und uns die meiste Zeit auch lieb haben, ist ein gutes Zeichen, doch kein Grund, sich selbst zu loben. Für ein paar Wünsche und Verbesserungen ist immer Luft nach oben. Ich wünsche mir, Europa sagt willkommen und nicht raus hier. Zu vielen in der Welt geht's schlechter als einem deutschen Haustier. Ich wünsche mir noch viel mehr überzeugte Europäer. Zukunft selbst gedeiht nicht gut. Um zu ernten, braucht es Seher. Ich wünsche mir Europas Herz, der Größe nach beachtlich, dass es weder Festung wird, noch ein 1984. Ich wünsche mir, dass Europa seine Chancen auch begreift, dass es nicht an Kleinmut scheitert, der in Landesgrenzen reift. Wir teilen so viel Geschichte, im Schlechten wie im Guten. Wir teilen viel mehr Kultur, als die meisten vermuten. Europa ist sexy. Kein Grund, dass du es scheust. Man muss es ja nicht gleich so lieben wie Zeus. Vielen Dank.
Okay, thank you. A little, yes, slam, a little poetry on Europe and the current challenges at the moment in Europe. And that's, I think, a nice start. And one of our main ideas, or one of our main goals, was not only to talk about youth and youth participation, but also to bring some people from the Baltic Sea region and from the Fehmarn Belt region together to get to know each other a little more. And what's the best way to do that? When I was young, 50 years ago, well, no, maybe not that much, but some years ago, speed dating was quite the thing. So we would like to do a little Baltic Sea speed dating with you. So what's going to happen is we will do some breakout sessions and yeah, in one-to-one sessions, and you will get a little impulse, and you have 3 minutes to actually talk to your partner about the impulse that I am going to give you. So first of all, as in a regular speed dating, you can introduce yourself, but after that you get an impulse from me. We will do 3 rounds, and so after 9 minutes, yeah, we will be done and hopefully learned a little more about each other. I will start by, just give me a second, just have to figure out the technical things. Right, here we are. So 3 minutes, and the first question I would like to give you in your session is, what's your connection to Europe and the Fehmarn Belt region? Okay, you can talk about many other things as well, but what's your connection to Europe and the Fehmarn Belt? That's the first question to start with, and I see you in about 3 minutes. Hallo, Annegret Meyer und Alessa Hinz. Sind Sie noch dabei? Nee, okay. All right, so first people are coming back. Yeah, there's one couple who's waiting till the very last moment to come back. So we wait for them, 3 more seconds. Okay. And we are back here. Thank you very much. I hope you had a nice first round to start with. In the second round, I would like you to have a look a little more about Europe. As you've heard from our 3 panelists, they are all very much involved with Europe, and I would like you to talk about what you think is the best thing about Europe. Okay, so the best thing about Europe, again, 3 minutes on that, and I see you in a bit. Hallo, Sandra Schumacher, können Sie mich hören? Hallo? Frau Schumacher? Hallo, Frau Fürling, können Sie mich hören? Nee. Ich gehe gleich wieder raus. Okay. Hello and welcome back, Rasmus, and the others as well. The other groups are really waiting till the very last second. Now they are coming back more and more. Okay, and time's up and people are coming back. And for the last round, I would like you to focus a little more on youth and youth participation, the main topic of today's session. And if you were asked to give or to rate the level of youth participation in Europe, what would that be? So how do you rate the level of youth participation at the moment? And when we come back, we're going to talk about how we maybe can improve that. So I see you in 3 minutes, and then we start with the main discussion. Hallo, Herr Klein, können Sie mich hören? Andreas Klein? Okay. Nicht. Hallo, Andreas Klein und hallo, Till Gottstein. Können Sie mich hören? Sonst geben Sie gerne mal ein Zeichen oder schreiben Sie in den Chat. So. All right, so we are back, and I'm just putting our 3 main guests in the spotlight. Here we go. And then we start with our main discussion, and picking up on that last impulse that I gave you, how would you rate youth participation in Europe at the moment? And as Simon and Carolina are belonging to umbrella organizations for young people, I would like to ask you, how would you, what's your point on that question? Simon.
The state of that's a pretty broad question, but I'll try to do it justice, because I think we do know of some things which are good and some things which are less good. I think if you look at the European level itself, I think there are a lot of things. I mean, everything's not perfect, of course, but I think there are a lot of things to be encouraged by. Very many young people have been seated in the citizens panels and plenaries on the Conference on the Future of Europe, including representatives of organized young civil society. So in that sense, it's good. I think what concerns me a little bit, and I can see when we talk to our membership, is the civic space aspect of youth participation. So making sure that youth organizations have adequate legal recognition, have sufficient sustainable funding, the types of things that make it possible for young people to self-organize, to influence policymakers, to go out in the world and do activities and pursue their own agendas. I think there are sort of two squeezes happening right now at the European level, I think, and I'll try to round off after that. There's one very direct assault in parts of Europe, right, or just broadly on human rights, democracy, civic space, and certainly youth organizations and young people are impacted by that as well. I think that's perhaps in many parts of the Baltic Sea region not the biggest problem. But I think a secondary problem that I see a lot more where we're from is this wish of politicians, and I hope Rasmus won't take it too personally, but to sort of direct the activities of young people so that when you're looking at funding for youth organizations, you're not funding youth organizations, you're doing project funding for young people who want to work with environmental sustainability or who want to work with social inclusion. And if you're a scout troop who just wants to do some good work in your community, who wants to bring in young people and teach them informally some skills, then you're fresh out of luck, right? Because you're not pursuing the agenda that someone designed for you. And I think it's very important that when we look at funding for youth organizations, that we do it in such a way that young people are pursuing their own agendas and not chasing the funding of people with purses and podiums.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. And you've already mentioned some very good points, and I'm sure Rasmus would like to comment on some of them in just a second. But I would like to hear Carolina's perspective as well, and how she rates the level of youth participation at the moment.
Yeah, like Simon said, it's a really difficult question because it depends on a lot of things. It's different on different levels. Like on the regional level, I think it's always easier to involve young people. But for example, on the national or international level, it's way harder, and it's also very hard. That was when I said I'm campaigning for diverse youth participation, because we have a lot of young people who are committed to these things, who are working with youth organizations, which have the opportunity to represent them at certain events. But a lot of them have an academic background. And like at the end, it's a certain group of people, like it's just a bubble of young people who can participate in events like this. So I think this is more a problem, because we have already a lot of mechanisms and structures. We still need to improve them, this is for sure, but we have a lot. But yeah, we need to have a look how to involve all the young people, and not just certain young people who have access to this.
Okay, thank you, Carolina. And Rasmus, first of all, how would you answer that question? So how would you rate youth participation? And maybe, if you would like to pick up on what Simon and Carolina said.
Yes, I mean, first of all, I fully agree with Carolina on the question of that it's different from if you're looking on different levels. Because I mean, it's easier to organize it on a local level, which doesn't mean that it could be better, but still there is like a common ground, and there are more organizations dealing with it. There is a legal framework, more or less. You can create a legal framework if you want to. Then, of course, it's also a question of majorities. You have to convince, but still, it's much easier than looking on the Baltic Sea region, for example, with a lot of different countries, with a lot of different culture, also when it comes to democracy and participation processes. And of course, the most complicated and no legal framework, right? I mean, it's the same for politicians. You are dealing with a lot of issues in the Baltic Sea area with without having a common legal framework. You can have conferences and so on, but the decisions has to be taken on a national level or on a regional level, or maybe in the European Parliament. But it's not like you have a legal framework for the Baltic Sea regions, for example. So this is something I think should be taken into account also when it comes to youth participation. And then, of course, and this is something we discussed in Carolina and me in our speed dating group in the last round, you also have to look on that participation also means that everybody can participate, and not always the same people are going through the process. And there, I think we need to do a lot more to ensure, for example, also securing or ensuring that maybe also young people can raise their voices if they are not already part of a strong youth organization in their region. And this is what I think is most challenging. I just want to mention that, like, now we are dealing with the conference for the future of Europe, right? It's not about the Baltic Sea, but it's about Europe in general. And one of your questions, Marcus, was about Europe also more general. So I want to mention that here and there is a youth conference also taking place, right? We are having an online consultation where it's quite easy for people to come up with their opinion on how Europe should look like when it comes to 10, 20, 30 years from now on. And nobody is saying that you have to answer that it should be address climate change. So it's up to you what you would like to come up with. But you need to be aware of that this is existing. And then afterwards, we are having at the end of September, there should be a youth conference where actually young people from all over Europe should debate and discuss the future of Europe. And there we can see, of course, that also the process of selecting those young people will be quite interesting, because my feeling is that there, of course, always will be a tendency to have people apply for conferences like this who are already part of strong networks, and there I think we should concentrate our energy, right, so that we can ensure that everybody can participate and not just some few young people already engaged in organizations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Simon just unmuted himself. I was actually picking up on that, and you were talking about making Europe maybe more visible and also accessible for young people. In the Erasmus Plus slang, they are called young people with fewer opportunities. Carolina said more diverse group of young people. Simon, you wanted to comment on what Rasmus just said, maybe in the same direction.
Yeah, I would like to think that I don't think there's anyone who disagrees with what Rasmus and Carolina are saying about how we should have young people of diverse backgrounds engaged, and young people coming from all backgrounds to be able to raise their voice and participate in democracy. I think that's relatively uncontroversial. I completely agree with that. My problem is that when that becomes an argument for excluding civil society, and we talk about a few young people, because I'm not here as, Simon. I'm here because we have 150 member organizations who represent thousands of local member organizations who represent literally millions of young people in Europe. There is a huge democratic weight behind the type of organization that we are, just like there's a huge democratic weight behind the European movement, the European Council of the Scout movement, or whatever it's called, or the European Confederation of Local Soccer Clubs, and all of these things. And I think all of those civil society actors are frankly much better than government is going to be at reaching out and connecting with young people who are struggling to make their voice heard. Now, is that something we as civil society need more knowledge on? Absolutely. Do we need to continue working on this, doing research on this, sharing best practices on this? Absolutely, and we can get much better, so that also people who are not sort of boring, half-baked academics such as myself will be in this panel. That's obviously an aim that you should strive for, but we need strong youth organizations to succeed in that. It's not we shouldn't go about randomly selecting citizens through lottery numbers, because then you end up with a group of people who just represent themselves. And what's wonderful and magical about civic society, and you're from a party and a youth council respectively, you know this, is that you carry with you the weight of many, many more people than yourself. So my argument is that to reach out to those young people, we need more civil society, not less, not more lottery numbers.
Okay, Carolina, would you like to say something or comment on what Rasmus and Simon said regarding young people with fewer opportunities, making youth participation more diverse?
Yeah, like I totally agree with what Simon said, but what I see the problem, this also Rasmus mentioned it, is, for example, also the people who are not part of youth organizations, because there are still, for example, a lot of kids, but also young people who are not part, for example, of a sports club or I don't know, another organization. And for them, it's super hard, or it's not possible, like, to get their voice heard. And also in the youth organizations, for me, it's a question of the, because you're the representative of the youth forum, and also I'm the representative of the regional youth council, but I don't know about you, but I have an academic background, for example, and I know I grew up very privileged, and it's super hard to think about people who have another life story. So I think we need to work on this topic still, even though we have strong youth organizations, and we need need to strengthen the mechanisms we already have. But I think still it's very important, because I can't speak for all the people in my youth organization, and I think it's better to have them that they can speak on their own.
Thank you, Carolina. Rasmus, well, you've heard what Simon and Carolina said. So on the one hand, we should try to include more young people, make youth work more accessible to all children and young people, and at the same time, that what Simon said, to not forget or reduce the support for youth organizations or civil society organizations. Now, my question for you is, I know there are a lot of questions that concern the national level or the regional level, but maybe from the perspective of a European parliamentarian, what could politics actually do to support and also maybe find a balance between these 2 points that Carolina and Simon mentioned?
Well, I mean, I would say not reducing the rights and possibilities organizations already have, but in the same time also creating new possibilities to achieve this, and also to see that this is not a one-way question addressed to politics, but this also means, and Simon pointed that out from my perspective, fully in the right way, that this has to be done together, right? I mean, it's good that we are having strong youth organizations on different in different areas and in different on different subjects, and then we should find a way to do this together, because I think we all share the opinion that we should strengthen also the possibilities we are already having, but still we need to find also new ways to address or to engage people in the process, young people in the process. And yeah, for me, this is not a conflict, but this is something we need to address together. And I think there are also opportunities for this.
Okay, thank you, Rasmus, and Simon is nodding. Now, as I would, or Simon, would you like to add something, or was it just, are you agreeing with what Rasmus said?
I think it's a very good point that, you know, there's I mean, politics can't in itself solve all the problems of not everyone being able to contribute equally to a political dialogue. That's a joint heavy lifting process that I'm sure that I know we're working on in my organization. I am certain that every local, national, regional, global youth organization is addressing that. It's something that in our organization, at least, we almost wake up thinking about it in the morning, because it is a very salient issue. It's a very important issue, and I think we've all got to be very willing to learn from each other on how to do those things.
All right. I would like to maybe look at another point that Simon brought up, which I think is quite important and interesting. If I don't repeat correctly what you just said, Simon, you feel free to correct me. Politicians, in a way, directing what young people should do, giving funding to specific projects. So yeah, in a way, directing young people and what young people should work on. Maybe you can elaborate on that a little more, and then maybe Rasmus can say something on that.
Sure. No, I think this is something you see at both national, local, regional, municipal, European, especially European levels as well, right? Is that youth funding more and more takes the shape not of any kind of operational grant, or it doesn't have a value in itself that you're a youth organization. It has to be you can receive funding for working on project X. And I think I started by mentioning this example of a scout troop who, I mean, I'm sure there are scout troops out there in the world involved with environmental sustainability, but some might not be. And I still think gathering a group of young people who can learn from each other, who can grow together, who can learn collaborative skills, non-formally, cooperation, and frankly also democratic political activity. You know, this is another good thing about civil society, is you live in a mini democracy, and sometimes you have to get used to people voting for other things than you. I personally still find that difficult, but I would doubtless find it more difficult had I not been in civil society for ages. And I think the best thing we can do to address that is to just bring young people to the table where these decisions are being made, right? Like we're also going to talk about what's good youth participation. The very best youth participation is when you're actually willing to share some power with young people. So when you let young people, not in sort of a youth washing, look, we listened to this young person and then we put them back to the kids' table when the decision was being made, but actual, I want to say power, actual sharing of responsibility, sharing of management, bringing young people onto programming committees, onto boards, onto this whole sort of thing. When we talk about these mechanisms that fund civil society and deal more broadly with issues that affect young people, right, is I think the best way, for me at least, to address that.
Mm-hmm. So you also mentioned youth washing at one point, and Rasmus, he's also been a member of the regional parliament, vice president of the regional parliament of Schleswig-Holstein, so he knows a lot about the regional politics as well, and this criticism, if I may say so, that Simon brought up, politics or governments sort of directing youth organizations' work by funding specific projects on specific topics. What would you say on that?
Well, I have a bit mixed feelings there because on the one side, I fully agree, and I think it's important to give youth organizations the possibility to work. And this is basically what in Germany, especially the states, are doing. And then we can always discuss if youth organizations are getting enough money or not. And there have been a lot of budget cut debates also in the part of Germany Carolina, Markus, and myself are right now, but there is some institutional financing for youth organizations, both for Landesjugendring, where Markus is working for, but also for sports youth, for example, and other parts. And then, of course, there are some extra projects maybe financed through extra money, but there is money for institutional work, and I think this is very important. On European level, this is not possible because we can't finance institutions for their work just because of their work. That's not possible, legally not possible, not for youth organizations, not for other organizations. So if you would like to change that, then you need to change European treaties. Good luck with that. But on local level, I think this is very important. On the other side, we are talking about public money. This means that there is a public responsibility. And this means also that we also need to address things we would like to achieve with the money. And then, of course, this could be done, for example, by giving money to institutions, to organizations for some years and to build like a framework contract or a plan for this, but this is as I pointed out at the beginning, the other side of the debate. Public money and public responsibility is quite different than if you're getting money from your members because they are paying something because they want to be part of your organization. And I think that this needs also to be addressed. I don't know so much about the situation in Denmark on this, but in Germany, this is at least something I think we also need to have in mind when it comes to public financing.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe like, picking up, Simon mentioned to give young people a seat at the table, and I get Rasmus' point that there's also some responsibility to take good care of the money from the countries and so on. But like this seat at the table, Carolina, how much do you feel as the regional youth council? Do you have a seat at the table, or maybe you need more seats or a higher seat or a more important seat at the table? What's your opinion on that?
You always need more seats. This for sure. No, I think talking about this, this is okay. Yeah, like involving young people, like talking about you, for example. I think we already have a lot of seats, but it's more a problem when it comes to the younger kids, for example, because this is the typical, everyone's talking about kids, but the kids can't talk themselves. Where we adults have the responsibility to listen, because kids are talking a different way, can't talk like in a political way. I think this is one thing, and also especially during the COVID, during the pandemic now. This was a huge problem also, that especially during this in this time we didn't have enough seats, I think, and politicians have been speaking and making decisions, this also speaking about young people and making decisions without young people. And I think especially in these times it was a huge problem, and I hope it changes in the future. I think like now after 1 year, more than 1 year, politicians are noticing that this is a problem, but just because youth organizations especially and many young people started to campaign for themselves. So I think in this point we need to work on that still.
Okay, yeah, that's a very important point. At least I would never disagree with you. So I'd say, and I'm also interested in Simon's and Rasmus's perspective on that. That you could argue that young people and young people's needs and interests were almost forgotten through the pandemic. So yeah, what's your opinion on that, and maybe how can that be overcome? I mean, we are sort of, yeah, not, you know, not the end, but it's improving, and how can we overcome this lack of youth involvement and asking young people for their opinion? Simon.
I think first of all, I'd just like to briefly say that I've been working with operational funding for youth organizations for a number of years, and if that's illegal under the treaties to give operational funding, the Commission has itself previously been breaking the law. I'd be very confused by that. Obviously, I'm not saying just put random bags of money out into the world and drop them down by helicopter.
But then we are talking in different directions. Then there is a misunderstanding that what I meant, what the German government, for example, is doing, or the regional government, is not possible with the budgetary rules of the European Union. But it can. But then there is a misunderstanding, Simon.
Either way, I think the intention described.
I know the budgetary rules in the European Union. Trust me.
Okay. I do trust you very much. I suspected as much as we were talking past each other. But aside from that, there's what you're saying about how young people have not been hurt in the pandemic. I think has to a very large point been true. I think if you look at emergency responses in general, I think there's a tendency to retreat away from civil society, away from broad consultation, and to make very, very fast impulse decisions. And I think young people have largely been deprioritized in the crisis, which is bad because young people have been hit pretty disproportionately by the crisis as well. I think if you look at something like access to education in Europe, I'm not sure I personally would have selected, as many countries have, to open up nightlife before fully opening up schools. I think there's probably an argument that young people have not been listened to, hiding somewhere in there. And I think the way to get around that, to get around these tendencies sometimes to go, this is important, I'm going to retreat and not take input, is to make sure that input is structural. Make sure that it comes in the form of committee seats and rights to be heard, rather than in the form of the momentary grace and goodwill of politicians. So the more we do that now, the better we are prepared for the next crisis, and making sure that young people will actually be heard there.
Okay, so yeah, Rasmus, this lack of youth involvement and during the pandemic, what's your opinion on that, and what can we do, what can the European Parliament do maybe to overcome that?
Yes, well, I would say, first of all, I fully agree on the analysis, and I think that we need to do more to give, as you already pointed out, give young people a seat at the table. For me, I'm sorry to say that it's also about direct political involvement. I'm not a huge supporter of having like many youth conferences without having real influence. I think it's good, like for example on the Conference of the Future of Europe, where you have a youth conference and then the representatives, elected youth representatives, will be elected for the big conference on the future of Europe, right? And then they are delegated as represented, and then they are deciding together with all of the others. This I think is very good, but this should also be addressed. And then besides of some elements you were already discussing, I think it's important to have young people involved in politics. I mean, we need also more young people running for parliament, both on local level and on European level. We need to have youth engagement in all of the political parties, for example. This will also be important, because if you want to address it, and if you want to change how politics is working and how politicians are working, then you need to confront them with your calls or your political positions, right? And there are different ways in doing that, but one is also to try to change politics and political parties.
Okay, thank you, Rasmus. And you've already started that. That was actually my last question. You've mentioned the Conference of Europe, and but you already said something on that. So I would like to ask Simon and Carolina to conclude our debate. What's your vision on youth participation in Europe, and picking up on what we said today? Yeah, what's your point, Simon?
I think what's going to be important in the conference is that the ideas that young people bring to the table are met somewhat openly, because even though there is strong youth representation in the plenary, which of course a huge kudos to the European Parliament for that. I know especially that's where some of the pressure for that came from, and it's very good. We have civil society, young civil society in there as well. But still, you need receptiveness, you need willingness to listen, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of great ideas coming. I think, to me, we have a dire emergency right now in terms of young people's access to employment and housing and education, some of these more social issues of being a young person in Europe, where you see young people are getting very much the short end of the stick. So I think it's going to be an important measuring stick for me with the Conference on the Future of Europe, whether we manage to address some of those challenges.
Okay, even though we are a little above time, Carolina, with a short answer, please. What's your comment?
Yeah, keep it short, because I agree with what Simon said. So my expectation would be that, for example, this conference isn't like a role play, like an event. It's just nice to have young people there. But yeah, that there are politicians really listening, taking notes and learning, and yeah, working together at the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you very much. And while we are talking, Rasmus was actually posting the link on the participatory process, youthideas.eu. We will definitely spread that further in Schleswig-Holstein, and I'm pretty sure Simon will do so in his networks, and make sure that young people can contribute to the future of to the Conference of the Future of Europe. Okay, it's 3:02. It was a very quick discussion. I haven't asked my questions. I had tons that I actually wanted to ask you, but I'm pretty sure there will be another chance, maybe even in person. How crazy would that be? So thank you very much to Simon, to Rasmus, to Carolina, and to our guests here. It's been very interesting. And as you say nowadays, stay safe, yeah, and good luck with your vaccination or whatever it is. Have a nice afternoon, and I hope to see you soon somewhere else. Bye bye.